Hey,
Hello. Hey, Donald, how you doing?
I'm fine. Just a little nervous here, you know.
Oh, no,
You guys still sound okay?
you sound fantastic. Nothing's changed. All the sound checks, yeah, with that, all good. And it
Beautiful.
says in the background, keep calm, right? Keep calm and calculate. So just,
Yeah, you know where that came from, right?
I feel I
It's
should.
I think it's a Rob Colley Power Pivot Pro thing.
Okay.
I've had it for a very long time. I forgot how I got it, but somewhere. But yeah,
It's
that
good.
is what it says. Yes, very good.
It's nice, nice background, mate.
Yeah,
Bef before we get started, do you want to introduce yourself as to who you are, what you do,
well,
and
sure.
all that
I'm
stuff? Is that
Don
okay?
or Donald Parish. I sort of go by Donald as I've gotten older. You know, Don to friends and whatever.
Yeah,
I'm a Power BI. I won't say a Power BI guy, but
sure.
right now I'm a Power BI developer.
Hmm.
But I didn't start out that way. Been working at the Buckle, fine purveyor of expensive blue jeans at malls across the United States since 1967. Uh, Before that, I was in the Air Force for about 12 years active duty. Finished up to 20 years
Wow,
in the reserves, so I've got a few Air Force stories. Did a lot of the American taxpayers sent me to Italy for 4 months, as I mentioned, about 25 years ago, which was
that's
very
amazing.
appreciated. Like that. It's fun.
I'm
Uh,
sure you earned it, mate.
so yeah, went to school at Michigan State University, got a degree in system science. Don't ask. Basically, electrical engineering.
Okay.
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 Air Force decided to make me an imagery interpreter, looking at overhead pictures from
Wow.
planes and other things.
That's pretty interesting.
And then they sent me to grad school to go master's in operations research. Got the degree in the background there. Okay, haven't really used it for that much, but I got statistics and stuff.
Okay. That helps,
Uh,
right?
no, yeah, sure.
Yeah, this helps for
I've used
sure.
it a few times. I
Nice.
used calculus once. I did rocket science once in one of my jobs.
Wow.
Calculate the velocity of an air-to-air missile, and I'm like, I'm doing calculus. This is cool. You
Right.
know,
So I've got to say that this is something I can dive into a little bit. As someone who is not from the US and learns most about stuff from the US from like, media and stuff or TV shows, and then there's always this episode where someone has to study calculus. I've never been really sure what that actually means because in the UK I've never really seen calculus on. I mean, we did
really,
maths, but I've never done anything called calculus.
really, like
Yeah.
integrals, derivation, it's calculus. I
Oh,
mean,
okay. So maybe we just call it something different in that case.
it's usually it follows like algebra and trigonometry or something.
Okay.
Maybe they did. I don't know. And there's
Maybe
actually two types of calculus too, by the way. If you want to be really smart,
I
there's
do want to be
the
really smart. I'm not, but I do really want to be. Yeah.
well in computer science. There's the lambda calculus,
Okay.
which was invented by I forgot either was it Turing or one of the other guys a long time ago. Anyway, it's if you were a computer science major, which I'm not, by the way, you would learn that stuff. So, but it sounds
Maybe
cool.
that's the thing. I wasn't good enough at maths to get at that level where calculus became a thing. I've
Trust me, I had calculus about 4 times. It never really got easy. It made learning Dax a little bit easier because I'm sort of used to beating my head against the wall and forgetting it and keep going around and around in a circle,
I
which
can
is
understand that. Yeah.
which is Dax. I've never gotten through the book. I've got it up there, back there somewhere.
One of the yeah.
Yeah, this bad boy over here.
Nice. You
I do
do.
have all the books.
I love this whole background you have going on with the qualification and the whole books thing. It's a very nice. It makes you look very kind of into the topic. Very, you know. I just got a blank wall
Yeah,
behind me. I should work
yeah.
on that. Maybe get a bookshelf or something.
And I have to keep all the books at work because my wife doesn't want them around the house, and I don't know what I'm going to do if I retire because what am I going to do with the books? I mean, I'm going to hide them somewhere. Probably have to get a storage room or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you need to get your study like really just have a place at home just for yourself where you have all these little these books where you can just kind of sit there
Oh,
and feel intelligent.
I've already got some closets full of stuff, including I did mention I was in intelligence in the Air Force. I don't throw stones at people like presidents who had those things where they had classified documents found in boxes. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it
Yeah,
happens. Okay,
yeah. It's
I
it,
don't judge. That's all I got to say about that.
if you bring something home and it accidentally has a classified document, in it, these things can happen. Yeah,
What I've heard from a friend, what you would do if such a thing happened is you would
of
just take it
course.
out back and burn it
I mean
and
that
be done with it.
actually makes a lot of sense. Actually, it makes sense. Don't tell anyone. Just burn it. It never happened. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would do if that ever happened to me.
Maybe like so in the UK when we have like the 5th of November, like bonfire
Oh,
night. That's
I know
just
that poem by the way.
You know it.
Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot?
I'm very
I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgotten.
wow. I've got to say,
Sorry, I read the book.
no, I like it. And when you said you knew it, I was like, this is going to sound really cool. I I honestly didn't exist. I didn't know the second part existed. I just remember
Really?
till
Huh.
how the season
Well,
treason.
that's because I read like a history book about it, the whole thing,
Okay.
and it had all sorts of fun stuff in there. And of course, I saw the movie, V for Vendetta or whatever, of course,
Right, that was a while ago.
which is how Americans would find out about that.
When I was living in Berlin in 2006, I worked in an Irish pub, and the Irish pub that I worked in, they used that pub to film one of the scenes from that film, V for Vendetta.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of got to be cool. I have seen some movies where you see, hey, I've been in that airport, or I was there. I think one of the, what was that? The thing with Nicolas Cage and
Oh, National
Treasure.
Treasure? Yeah.
And I
right.
watched the movie after I'd been to Philadelphia, and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh yeah. And it was funny because you're like, well, they went from that place in this chase scene to this place, and that's like 3 miles away. So
Yeah.
that wasn't quite how that really would have happened.
That's if you watch the I think there's one of the Bourne films which is set in Berlin. It's like the same thing. It's like scenes where it's like, wow, that guy can run fast to get from one side of the city to the. And you just kind of, I mean, I always find it really interesting because I'm from a really small town, which is never on TV. So when I moved to Berlin, I was like, I know that place. I know that place. It was like really interesting for you. There you go.
Right. Dan's giving me a hard time about trains. I do like the trains, by the way. Now, this is America. We don't really have trains,
Okay.
but I do have a train about 30 miles away
Mm-hmm.
that gets me places. For instance, I was we have a thing called SQL Saturdays
Mm-hmm.
in the States. They actually started in Denver. The first, Steve
Okay.
Wake, I think, started the first one, however many years ago.
Cool.
And I hadn't been to one since, COVID or whatever. And so I went there last weekend, and that was fun. A few people were there. Then I'm going to go to another one tomorrow, Minneapolis. A few people from the Saturday morning learning group, the SML group, Kevin and Chris Wagner.
Oh, wow.
Be there too. So I'm like, yeah, I'll go there.
That'd be
That
cool.
one I have to drive though. I thought about the train. It was like, well, I've got to go to Chicago. It's like 22 hour, and I'm like, oh, it's 8 hours away. I'll drive.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So traveling by train is the best way to travel. I love it. It's so relaxing, just kind of sit down. I'm off to Munich in a couple of weeks. It'll be the first time I've been away, actually since COVID for work stuff.
We have the enormous security at airports in the States. Yeah. Do you have more train security than we do in the United States and Europe since they're more popular?
We have no train security. You just get on and
we
go.
Have none either. It's beautiful. No one's ever blown up a train, and it's just beautiful. You just get on the train, you go.
It's so good, yeah. I always find it's easier to be late for a train though, because with airports you're like, oh man, you got to get there like 2 hours in advance and stuff, and go through all this. With trains, like, yeah, just get there and show up and get in the train, Which is why I always buy a flexi ticket if I can, because it means you can just get on any train. It doesn't matter what time it is, just get on the train and go.
Really?
Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, costs a bit more, but for someone like me who's just a bit forgetful, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
So I just saw a comment by Anthony here, basically saying that Ben is learning about British history from a non-Brit, which is true. And also, even worse, considered the fact that I did study history, by the way. So there you go.
Well, it's funny. In World War II, they would catch German spies because they would know the second verse of the Star Spangled Banner. No American knows the second verse of the Star Spangled Banner. The Germans were such diligent guys; they learned it all. Might be a true story. I don't know.
I love that. I hope that is true. It's so cool. Oh man.
Where was I? But I was in the Air Force and doing intelligence work, and then I got the master's degree in operations research and did a little bit of simulation work, rockets. So the calculus and the rocket science, briefly, and then they sent me back to intelligence. And anyway, when they threw me to Saudi in '94 is when I learned Visual Basic for applications. If anyone knows that, because I had a pretty boring little thing I had to do every night to some Word document. I got tired of doing it by hand, so I just recorded a macro, cleaned it up, and automated my life there.
That's amazing. I love the way you learned this stuff. Like, I was in. What did you say? Saudi Arabia? Did you say?
Saudi.
Yeah, I was in Saudi, and just that's where you normally learn that sort of stuff. Just what you do. That's fun. Amazing.
That was the good old days before they started blowing stuff up as much. And, you could get off base. Because I haven't, been to the desert since then. But you know, after that, everything's
Mm.
locked down. You're just going to go to a base in the middle of the desert and probably never leave. There's no fun
Crazy.
in that.
So I'm curious about studying in away. Sorry, I forget the name of it again. You said you studied in the U.S. Air Force Institute of Technology.
Yes, Air Force Institute of Technology. It was their own master's program,
Um,
own school with like Air Force officer teachers,
that's
and that was your job. Now, the funny thing with that was you could not skip classes. They said you're getting paid your salary to go to school. You're going to go to every class. You cannot skip.
That's very
You
different
know,
from
they
mine.
didn't make you stay there and study on base, but you had to go to
Yeah,
class.
yeah.
That was a
Oh, wow.
non-negotiable thing there.
But was it like at a university, or do they have their own university, or is it like
Yeah, it
parts
was
of?
basically there. Well, it was on an Air Force base in Dayton, Ohio,
Okay.
Wright Patterson Air Force Base. It's where the Wright brothers learned to fly and stuff. I mean, they did the flight there, but that's where they did most
Yeah,
of their
yeah.
work.
Okay.
Was out of there. And you know, it's just one of the campuses. It was a pretty big base, an engineering base,
Hmm.
and they had basically a building with classrooms and stuff in there. They had computer science, you know, everything there really. I'm not sure, but lots of engineering and such. And they would basically, that's how, you know, the Air Force is actually pretty good on education stuff. And they,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
of course, most people get masters on their own, but
Hmm.
some people they would send off to school to get a master's. And it's your job for 18 months. It's kind of nice. I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
bet.
a nice way to go to school.
Sure. I
Think
bet.
about it.
But I love this change of pace from going like from if it was from the Air Force to this the buckle, right?
Yeah.
I love that, just that complete change of pace. I mean, I'm sure it's a thing that many people do, go from a
It's just,
military to something else. But how
yeah.
was that? How was that transition? Was it weird?
Well, I was stupid because I left the Air Force on Friday and showed up to work on Monday because they needed me real bad, right? And I
Yeah,
hadn't had a proper vacation for like
yeah.
2 or 3 years. I think I had 60 days of vacation saved up for the military, and I was getting paid for 2 more months. I didn't need the money,
Oh
really.
wow. Yeah,
And
that's
I said,
brutal.
okay, I'll show up. You guys, I'm like, I should have said, you know what? I can show up in 2 weeks or a
Yeah,
month or you know something
for sure.
because. But yeah, my wife was from where we moved back to Kearney, Nebraska. That's why I'm in Nebraska, by the way.
Okay.
Do you know where Nebraska is? I didn't know where Nebraska was when they sent me here.
I do not. I do
Yeah,
not.
see, it's in the middle of the country.
Okay.
It's
So it's
1173 miles from Boston and from San Francisco, if you
okay.
take it that way. So
Okay.
they claim to be in the middle. One of the places that claims to be in the middle of the country, if you do it that way.
But is it a nice place? Like not outdoor stuff to do, or what's
Well, it's
Nebraska's thing?
Nebraska. It's kind of flat. I mean,
Okay.
it's a nice town. It's about 30,000, so I don't mind. They have a small university here, you know,
Okay.
hospital. It's okay. I grew up in a town like this. I don't mind. I don't need the big city.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But yeah, it's not pretty. Like I go to Denver last week. I'm like, ooh, there's mountains. It's pretty. No, we don't get that. We're kind of like Denver, but without the mountains and stuff, just flat. Mostly.
I think so this is another random country. I think I learned that Denver had mountains from watching the film Jerry Maguire,
Really?
because there's one part where two universities or two teams want to sign him. This guy, what's the guy, the quarterback called him Jerry Maguire, and he's like, he said I'll either surf or ski. And that's because one of them was Denver. And I was like, what? And I was like, okay, because it has mountains, so you'll ski. Sorry, that's a really random thought for me there, but it also just comes to my mind when I think about that sort of thing.
I've never seen that one. Long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while.
But yeah, so basically when I was in the Air Force, you know, I started, you know, learning doing computers as a hobby. And of course I learned, you know, when I was a kid, like on a Trash 80 machine in 1979, 80,
All right.
et cetera.
Yeah.
And obviously if you do engineering and stuff, you're going to learn some programming. They don't really teach you as much as here, go do this and you go figure it out, which is good because that's kind of what real life is. When you're doing something, you get there and you go learn what you need to learn and figure things out. But I remember just doing my first pivot table in like 1997 or so.
Nice.
And I'm like, this is cool. And they were actually fairly new then.
I can imagine.
And
I mean,
then when I got to the Buckle, I was doing some programming helping with the online store to get packages out, which I did for quite a bit long afterwards. So even the BI stuff here was sort of on the side.
okay.
My main job was keeping the packages going out the door and helping with the programming there.
That's really interesting. I think my first experience of doing anything with Excel, anything that wasn't just basically here's a giant list, was actually also regarding shipping stuff. I was working in a like a electrics, like a reseller. They were kind of like buying, selling, all that kind of stuff, and it was
Right.
basically that, just to ensure that stuff was getting shipped out in time and like processing orders and
And then people want some reports on it. And now, though that wasn't the primary reports, mostly it's the boring sales, inventory, orders, which is great. That's the money maker. That's what BI makes its money on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone cares about that.
Yeah.
I mean, and what's funny is the stuff I did, and I'm not proud of this code. You know, I've still got 24-year-old VBA, Visual Basic for Applications code, still running.
Wow,
I think I had
really?
a contest. Win Hopkins was asking. He found some code from 2001. I'm like, I think I can beat that. And I looked up my little thing and said, yep, February 2000. I wrote this piece of code here. And it's this horrible, sort of horrible report. It's basically, it's a VBA writing SQL to get data, bringing it into a table, making a pivot table out of it, adding pictures, which, by the way, you can actually natively do in Excel now with the new image function finally. And pivot tables need to get those too. Well, pivot tables have them, old school pivot tables, but Power BI or analysis services don't support the pictures yet. I need them to support the pictures. That's one of my requests, by the way. Because
so that's one of the questions. If you could change one thing, that we'll get to later.
That would
right?
be one of the things. Because literally back in 24 years ago, I had to just do it in VBA, insert a shape, put a picture in it, put it at the cell, resize the shell so the picture fits. And now I don't do that. You just throw a picture in the cell, and it works.
But I'm not sure. I gotta say, if you found VBA from 2000 that's still running now isn't effective, I don't think you can call that bad code or something. That has to be extremely good code. It's still doing the job. What it's there for. It might not be as beautiful as you want it, but but still.
And it's parts of the code I'm not going to change. Now, someone had me add a field. I had sworn I was never going to change anything, but I said, no, you need to be using Power BI. You need to use something newer to do it. But they just wanted one little field. I'm like, okay, I have to add a field to a select statement in SQL and do a change. Okay, I will do that for them because I do like to, keep the business happy when I can.
Of course. You're nice like that. Keeping the business happy.
Pivot tables, man. That's all you need. I love pivot tables.
I mean, you said your first pivot table was 97, right? It was pretty cool.
Roughly, yes.
Pivot tables are still cool. I gotta say, pivot tables are. I really enjoy pivot table.
Well, what's funny is because back when Power Pivot came out in about 2009, 2010, and I was on them pretty early. Back then, that's all you had.
Yeah.
I mean, you got pivot tables, and you had Dax, and that was cool because all you could really do was do cool DAX and put it in a pivot table. That's all anybody wanted, right? Now you got all these other moving parts in Power BI.
At the end of the day, sometimes I think that's still all people really want. You know how it goes when you build these reports, and then people connect to a data set, and then you see an Excel file that's connected to the data set, and it's just full of pivot tables.
Yeah,
this is just.
Well, and one of the things too people forget. Actually, on the you were on the show this morning with the explicit measures, talking about people still using Excel.
Yes. Yeah.
And the reason, I've got this other, and this is my oldest, Power Pivot thing, basically from 2013 or so. I really spent only about 2 or 3 months really hardcore getting that going. And it's still the biggest thing out there. But there are some buyers of merchandising doing planning and forecasting. Very rough, right? So they need to have something where I get the sales history and the inventory history, but I want to put my projections for sales down here and have them added in to the future. So I'm basically using pivot tables. It's cube formulas.
Yeah.
You ever use cube formulas? So, and I've got everything set up so they can put those numbers in and it all adds up. Again, I would rather use something fancier, one of those forecasting or write back tools.
Yeah, okay.
It has, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love looking. Rob Colley was doing all this stuff with the blog and Mr. Excel days. Mr. Excel is still kind of out there. If you've ever seen some of his videos on YouTube, like video number 3,405 or something.
I gotta say, not for a while, but actually, that's a good point. I thought that's true. Yeah. With Excel,
he did one
with Excel stuff itself. I think for me, I watched a lot of obviously Win, but also a lot of Oz as well. Not a bit of Oz to Soleil's like Excel stuff, kicking about there.
Oh, Oz is fun.
Yeah,
he's still pretty cool.
Yeah.
Fernando just asked me a question.
There you go. See, good timing.
Yeah, I'm a procrastinator.
When are you going to start?
I've been meaning to do something sometime.
Actually, if you want to, Berlin User Group would be happy to have you do something there, mate.
Well, first one I'd probably do would be the Dallas Fort Worth User Group because that's Kevin Arnold does that.
That's
one.
fair.
And I kind of hang out. It's a little chat group. It's only a handful of people, but somebody has a wonderful, Dax question or a Power BI question, and we just
Yeah.
chat a little bit and stuff.
If you were going to, so then what do you think your session would be? If you're going to do a user group, what would you?
Oh, I know it'd be on Star Schema, baby.
Really? Oh, okay, fair enough. So
Did I mention I have all the books? And I literally have all the books.
show
that I've
us
been
a
able to
couple of
find
those
so
books.
far.
I'm curious what you got going on back there.
Well, I highly recommend, by the way, I'm reading this cover to cover. I have a bookmark here. The Kimball Group Reader.
Okay.
This is a collection of all their blog posts from 1995 to about 2015.
Oh.
Now, you can read most of these online for free if you go to the Kimball Group, but they put them in a book and there's some commentary and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Very nice.
Oh, what else do I have here? Oh, look at this. This is the first edition of the Data Warehouse Toolkit by Ralph Kimball, 1996.
Wow. Love it.
With a forward by Bill Inman, who I really don't like. Don't tell him that. Still alive.
I'll edit out. Don't worry. It's all good. So this is so the book from that's still relevant though, right? There's still, I mean, most of the core stuff in there.
Well, that book in particular isn't as relevant as the other editions.
Okay.
I know. Well, the thing is sort of like SQL. No one gets popular writing a book on how to do SQL queries or anything anymore, really. I mean, there's probably some books on SQL for smart or something, but it's that's kind of done. I mean, we know how we set up the database.
Fair enough. So.
And really, with Ralph Kimball's books and stuff, we know how you set up basically and do the so-called dimensional modeling, right?
Yeah. Why is it then? Maybe you can. Sorry, please, did I interrupt you there, please?
No.
Why is it that do we every now and then I'll see like on some kind of social media someone saying that Kimball is wrong about this, that, and the other?
Oh yeah. Microsoft, we're sort of in a ghetto with Power BI. There's other people out there, and all the cool kids are doing other stuff. DBT, and I saw Air Swift or Airbyte or whatever it was. Other ways of doing the same ETL, which is, by the way, what I call bronze, silver, gold. I just call it extract, transform, and load because, wow, that term's been there for 30, 40 years. Why not just keep using that? But there's all different ways. But what's interesting is, particularly, I've been paying attention to Joe Reis, Reis. He wrote a book for O'Reilly called Data Engineering. Mm-hmm. It's sort of platform agnostic. But as a matter of fact, the other day I was throwing Kimball because whenever someone mentions Inman or something, I go in there and put my Kimball stuff in here. And he's like, I'm tired of all this Kimball versus Inman stuff. Do what you need to do, people.
Fair enough, yeah.
But yeah, if I did a presentation, I've been kicking around for a couple of years. It'd be something on how to do the star schema, but the hard parts, not just here's a simple sales and date and customer, and do something like, well, you got this thing and you've got transactions that have line items, which you have discounts, which you have tax, and this one, and how do you take that and make it into star schema?
I would be your target audience there because if I could take one element, he's late. Don't worry, mate. It's all good. If I could take one part of the entire process of report building that concerns me the most, it's always the modeling part.
Well, every time, like right here, we had a problem the other day. Hey, we're trying to filter this thing by that thing. Well, this isn't connected to that. That dimension's not connected. It's not going to filter the other thing. Well, I want to do it. Maybe I can write some really fancy DAX to get it to work. No, it's not going to work. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And every time you let the model slide,
Come
every
on.
time you let the model slide, it just makes everything else downstream worse.
For sure.
The model's going to be slower. The DAX is going to be harder to write. And I get it. It's pragmatic. Power BI is very nice. It lets you do things that the old school analysis services, which, by the way, I played around with starting in 2000, but that was very, very much on the side. The old school MDX stuff. Which still lives in Excel, by the way. All the Excel pivot tables still generate MDX. So I occasionally have to go look at that and stuff. With that, you had no choice. You had dimensions. You had facts, you had associated. You couldn't just say, well, I've got this table and I'm just going to use stuff within the fact table as a dimension. You just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But now you can. And again, if it's a one-off, fine. But when it's going to be my 100 million row transaction database, if you do it wrong, it's going to start to hurt you when you go from, well, it works fine for a month of data. That's great. How about for a year of data? How about for 2 years of data?
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. Now starting encountering, and I'm going to blame this on COVID as well, by the way. That companies wanting more history in their reports because they want to see data that was during and before COVID, so you really can't compare stuff to COVID years because it's an unfair for many
Oh yeah,
regards.
that was yes.
So
And trust me,
now,
in retail, that was a pain because that's that one year that's all screws everything up.
absolutely, it's like, oh, can we see everything from maybe 2018 until
Yeah,
now? It's like, oh, come
yeah.
on, man.
And that's what we had to win. All the year over year stuff. Well, I want to do year over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
By the way, we've got the wonderful, if you guys are in retail calendars, the wonderful, extra 53-week years coming up at the end of this year. So if you're dealing with, what I'm talking about, every 6 or 7 years, it's like some little
Yeah.
curse or some jubilee thing coming
I
around.
hate that.
And I'm like,
that.
darn it, I want to be gone before that happened. I didn't want to deal with that again. But I figured one more.
I think with those sort of things, my desire is always just to kind of pretend those days don't exist. It's like, yeah, but you're not going to go bankrupt by ignoring those days of business. Just ignore them. It's fine.
Yeah.
Too hard.
It's not actually hard. It's just a bit of pain.
Sorry.
Honestly, you just restate the calendar. You just push all the weeks back.
I'll rephrase. Too lazy. That's
too lazy. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to push it on the difficulty part. Just the fact that I couldn't bother to do it. So yeah. But it's also a pain.
Yeah.
So
someday a modeling thing. I will do a modeling thing someday.
I hope you do. Well, apparently the people are there who are waiting for this session to happen.
Yeah.
So it seems like when you do it, you're going to get a big audience. So
we'll see. We'll start out small. Yeah. Do a user group. Do a SQL Saturday. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, that'll be good. I thought the word was yes, exactly. I'm not being lazy. I'm being efficient. Thank you very much, people. I really appreciate your support in that one. I'll screenshot that for my boss. Yeah.
There you go.
But now you're working a lot with Power BI and all that kind of stuff, and you're a developer, and so I'll ask the question now because you said before we went live that you'd prepared for the question. So the one thing that you would change.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you would change, Donald, from Power BI? What's the one thing?
One thing I mentioned before was having images.
Yes,
like for merchandise in a pivot table. The other one, and maybe I'm just thinking about it wrong, is when you create a measure, the first thing you're going to do is like rename the measure, which I mean you're going to have to probably do anyway, right? But it's like measure one or something. What if I got to highlight the field that I want to make the measure on, and would maybe take that and automatically make a measure? Maybe the other thing does that, but just take that and at least put that in the name or do something with it. And we could guess on it. Okay, it's probably want to try. Let's start with the sum x and just wrap it with the sum x or something with the proper name. That's a small thing. That's all I would ask.
I get it. My thing is for that is because most of the time when I'm doing measures, I've been using Tabular Editor, but then when I'm building them actually within Power BI itself, I forget that I can't just right click on something and say sum that, average that. Like, why can't you do that? Why can't you just click on like a value field and just say create a sum measure?
Yeah,
that would be so helpful.
Yeah. So by the way, do you basically use Tabular Editor instead of? I actually wound up using Visual Studio we're still on analysis services for our big boys, so we're still using the Visual Studio for that.
Yeah, I used to in my previous company
too.
Yeah, so I used to use Visual Studio in our previous company because of what we're using. But at my current company, we use different stuff, so I don't. But yeah, I used Tabular Editor 3. It was a challenge to get that installed because of all the security admin type stuff that you have to deal with sometimes. But yes, I primarily used Tabular Editor 3, so I got that license sorted out, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it's money, and my guys are pretty cheap.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like pushing it. And
I mean, Tabular Editor 2 is great. I mean, it does a great job. It's just those small differences, and for me, it's just also I prefer the user interfaces. I find it a little bit nicer.
There's still a few things Visual Studio does a little better job of.
Yeah.
Maybe making sure some things work. But I've been having fun with pBip. pBip, is that how we say it? PBIP?
pbip, that's the one, yeah. pBip.
Lately. And I'm still playing with PBI tools a little bit as well, because that's about the only way you can get Tyndall in your thing right now. But with, basically, by the way, what both those tools let you do is hack things a little bit. Like I had some user measures that were overwritten by server measures from servers later, and they had the same name. And for some reason, it's using the server ones, but it won't let you delete the old ones.
Okay.
And it won't let you make a composite model. So all I figured out is I just opened up the pbip and dug around until I found them, and they were in this config.something file sort of hidden in there, and you can just delete them by hand. But the nice part is pbip. You can go in there with that little JSON stuff, delete stuff carefully, match your curly cues and everything, and then it will reopen as a PBIX file and do its thing.
Okay.
Okay. And like one use case would be, let's say you've got your super duper, date table where you've hidden some columns, you made some hierarchies, you've done your formatting and all that. You wouldn't have to redo that at all, or you could put it in a template too, but you could basically take that little piece of JSON for that date thing in one master model, paste it into the other one, and then recompile it. And you could have the same thing. And I've done that once or twice. So it's kind of nice.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So, I've got to say the PBI, I've explored it a little bit, clicked around, seemed interesting, but I haven't really managed to dive so much into it. Also, yes, Christian, I agree. We shouldn't ignore the new kid on the block, PBI Explorer.
Yeah, it looks a little rough so far. I tried it when it came out Friday, and I was like, it gave me some error messages, and I'm like, okay, we'll come back maybe in a week or two.
You can feel that it's the beta version, right? It's
I think Matthias is going to be on Reed Haven's show like October 4th or something. You can look it up, talking about that PBI Explorer thing.
Okay, that'd be cool.
So you could look for that. That might be. I saw Reed last week in Denver, by the way. It was.
Oh yeah.
He had, of course, cool little Star Wars shirt on and stuff. I don't have any really cool shirts yet. I did order a Star Schema shirt from
nice.
Who's the guy that came up with the Star Schema, all the things, and the little smiley starfish guy?
Yeah,
Bernavin or something. I'm sorry, I should remember his name.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I know which one you mean though. Someone will chat now and they'll correct us.
Okay, but yeah, he has a swag store, and so I bought a T-shirt from him with it. So because he was wearing it during the presentation the other day, which as I go to a lot of webinars and presentations. My boss has noticed, but I'm kind of working most of the time.
It's relevant. It's work. You're learning about stuff for your job, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I give it half credit or something. We'll see what I'm doing
here. For sure. No, I sometimes with especially with the time of the day. If I'm watching something like the what's it called? Just the one I was watching this morning. I always forget the name of it. With my colleague. Explicit measures. That's a good one to have on at work because it's nice to chat a bit of information, and I can work at the same time. It's pretty cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. No, there's some regulars, and of course, Kratos BI. Chris Wagner's been doing his thing, so I try to catch him. See if I really like people. Like you're on the list. You get an actual recurring appointment on my calendar. Nice. Because, I've got the reminders might pop up on YouTube. But, if I'm busy, I may not notice them. But I actually put some things that get on the calendar, and then I don't miss them. Because even though I try to watch a bunch, I have missed a few. Like, oh crap, I was working and I forgot.
Yeah, I'm the same. Because I live stream myself, I tried to watch as many other live streams as possible because it's nice to kind of see what's going on and stuff. But actually, sorry, just thinking again about PBI Explorer, which one of the things I've been thinking about recently is just using external tools, and there are a lot of them, right? And they're all serve a good purpose, but I'm starting to get frustrated by the fact that there are so many, not because of the fact that the people who create them. It's more like, it would be so nice if they were just like in one place or in two places,
Yeah. Well, remember some of the stuff that's shown off is going to come to desktop. Something like I think it was kind of like a Dax Studio thing where you could put some Dax code in and run it or something. I think they're going to bring a few things in there.
I think so.
I think you're right because most people aren't really going to find those and use those unless they really have to or someone tells them about it. And if you just built the stuff in or.
And then I think it goes maybe back to a little bit before what I was saying before about the experience of writing DAX in Power BI desktop is just generally an unpleasant experience, which is always strange. Given the fact it's such a core part of working with Power BI, and it's really, I want to think the word finicky. I'm not sure if that's just a very English word, but it's a very kind of. It's not easy. It's not fun. You have to you can't put enter or you can't hit return. Otherwise, it just finishes, and you can't move stuff around. It's just very static, and I don't understand why it's still that way. It really hasn't changed that much since when.
Not really. It's okay. If it's anything serious, I'm probably in Dax Studio anyway. At least I got the format button sitting right there, and and I'm probably maybe checking the timings. I'm sort of particular about things that run too slow because. Again, as I was mentioning before, with poorly designed models, they get slow. But some things like I see, it's like, why is that taking 3 seconds to render that page? And that's might be, I'm not probably going to worry about. I've seen somewhere it's like 20 seconds. Like, that's not acceptable. That's okay. It's all right. I'm like, no, it's not. It shouldn't be that slow.
Oh, that's
You know?
interesting. Oh, I'll be honest. I do that sometimes, but it's probably lower down my list of priorities. I mean, really, if a report works, I can
Yeah.
deal with 3 seconds. More than
Yeah.
like
Right. But 10 seconds
no,
or
that's
three
not cool.
seconds,
No, like 10 seconds is
just
not
spinny,
acceptable.
spinny, spinny. It's like,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
And the worst thing is when there's a report and every time someone clicks on a slicer or some kind of filter, you've got to wait like 7 seconds. So it
What
just
the
seems
heck?
finicky. So sorry, it's the word finicky. I'll get that in a second. So it's when someone buys a slicer and then you got to wait like 10 seconds for that slicer to actually do something. It's really confusing. But yes,
Yeah.
sorry,
Right.
from Fernando. Finicky, yes, it's a word to listen. Finicky eater, finicky. He's terrible finicky about his food. Yes, a lot of attention to detail. So basically, it's not easy. It's kind of like you got to be very precise and you got to be very, yeah. It was the lack of
Gotcha.
spaces in certain places that confused me there, Fernando. But thank you for providing the explanation.
That's funny.
Oh
Oh,
man,
shoot.
there was one word that I was speaking to with my friends a few years ago now, but it was one of these situations where I didn't realize that this word that I'd been using my entire life wasn't an actual English word. It was a very regional word.
Hmm.
So if you're in your car and you're driving very slowly, saying you're in a traffic jam, or there's and you're parking or something, and you just go bumper to bumper, and the kind of bumpers kind of like just touch, not really heavily,
Right.
just
Okay.
touch.
Right. A little tap
Yeah.
or
In Newcastle, would say, or
fender
where I'm
bender.
from, would say dunch. I dunched them.
Really?
Dunch. And I was speaking to my friends, oh, we just dunched. And they're like, what? I said, yeah, but you know what? I dunched them. Or what I forgot the situation. Like,
All
they were
right.
like, I have no idea what that means. And there was in that moment, this word, I was like, yeah, that's just a Newcastle thing. Really
Yeah.
strange.
That's a new one. Yeah. That's cool.
Um, on this,
Uh-oh.
regarding being very precise and attention to detail, there is a Finnish word. It's the only Finnish word that I know because I don't speak Finnish, but I used to work with someone who was Finnish. And this word, I'll paste in the chat, and then people can Google that if they want to Google it. But in it's I can't say it because let's just say it has the translation is a swear word. But this word that I've just pasted in the chat is Finnish for someone who is very has a lot of precise attention to detail. It's
Ah.
pronounced pilkunnosia. So if you Google that word,
Okay.
someone you'll see what it means. Probably don't paste the meaning in the chat. But it's basically like someone like in English we would say more of that like a grammar Nazi, yeah, someone
Right.
who's like with grammar.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing, but
That's funny.
it's related to commas. So that's my favorite word about someone being very precise. There you go.
Well, sometimes you need to be. I
You
don't know.
do. There's nothing wrong. Sometimes that's very acceptable, especially when it comes to your DAX, right?
Dax or Marling. Again, well, anyway. And like I said, I like DAX and I've done my share of doing complicated DAX, but you don't really want to. And if you don't have to,
Hmm.
let's try to avoid it, just do a sum X if you can.
Yeah, exactly. Just add an X on the end cures all things.
Well,
My
I used to remember when I thought it was bad to do a sum X back in the
okay.
old days. I thought it was slower. I thought it would force you to do something line by line instead of just being, sum being syntactic sugar
Okay.
over it.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's always things again, I got started with, I don't know if it was bad habits back in the day because you just didn't know any better. There weren't any books or anything.
Yeah.
And something you sort of learn one way, and until you have to change
Yeah.
it, you don't. And I still need to get through that book. I have not gone through the DAX book yet. I get like halfway through or a third of the way through, and
Yeah.
just don't do it.
But that's a good point. I would be really curious as to see. Obviously, it's pretty much impossible to find out, but just to find out the accidental bad practices that are still followed by people who are kind of very good at what they do,
Yeah.
So the accidental bad practices of the Italians or
Yeah.
the guys in Cuba, whomever.
Yeah. Well, they've got that new tool whenever that Dax Optimizer, whatever it's called, that I didn't get an invite to, by the way. So you can you can give it your model, and it's supposed to go through there and find your DAX it can optimize or whatnot.
Wow.
Belinda had a couple of runs. We did a run there the other Saturday, I think.
Okay.
But the one I saw was kind of boring, so it wasn't. I mean, it was too good. It wasn't anything that complicated.
Yeah. All the DAX was too good. There was nothing to optimize because it all been done to perfection. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would
But
not
yeah,
happen on any of my models.
yeah. But I subscribe to that SQL BI Plus thing, and I better start using it up before the end of the year. I mean, I'll probably renew it, but I haven't really used as much. But they have some good course in there on refreshers on how to do DAX and group buys and stuff.
Yeah, I did that mastering tabular, I think it was called.
Oh, did you? Okay, I was wondering how that'd be.
Very good. I mean, really, you have to take. I mean, it took me a while to get through it.
Right.
Because it's quite. I mean, for somebody, I don't have that background, right? So there's a lot of things that I was just kind of like going through, maybe doing once or twice just to kind of get a better understanding of it. But I mean, value for money, I thought was incredible. I got to say, really, very impressive.
Yeah. So. Hey, do you remember Avi Singh? I guess I don't know how to say his last name. He was one of the old guys. Used to work with Rob Colley.
Name rings a bell, but
he sort of does his own thing now. Sort of basically like very much more of a business-oriented Power BI thing, helping people kind of get started or maybe go do it as a career. Maybe it's Learn Power BI might be one of his websites.
What's his first name again?
Avi, AVI.
Yeah.
And SING.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, right. Yes, because with the yellow bow tie, right?
Yeah, bow tie guy. Yeah, he did that book. But yeah, he had a little mini online conference last week with basically it's like your business user types showing off stuff. Like there's a guy with a winery in California, and he's got all these graphs on the fermenting and all this stuff. And it's like, wow, that's pretty cool. Because I mean, we always get on and we're talking about this and that, but the business users don't really care about that, Yeah,
that's fair.
We just want something that the numbers match, of course, and of course they don't. Well, what's cost? Well, what is cost? How are you calculating it? And they want it fast enough. And honestly, they don't care about the speed that much, but they want something that's useful to them, and that's when it's been fun doing something like the thing I did. It's been over 10 years, and they're still using that.
I find that very impressive. I got to say. I mean, anything that lasts that long obviously has amazing value to it.
And the nice part was something else. I mean, I didn't do the report. I mean, someone showed me like, well, it's coming from my data, from my model, right? But I didn't make the pivot table or anything. Cool, man. Hey, they use that and they threw something else in there. Hey, more power to you. That's great.
Nice.
Not really my thing, but.
Yeah, I think I'd be curious as to the reports that I've developed over my time developing many Power BI reports, how long the longest one has actually lasted. Let's consider the when I first started using Power BI was at BASF, probably about 2017. So I would be very surprised if any of those reports still exist. Actually, I kind of hope they don't, because back what I was building back then was probably not great.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing, like I said, the old VBA SQL stuff. I'm trying to retire that stuff. I've retired a few pieces of the stuff that's on my list to try to retire. Well, it was on the list for this year. It's on the list for next year. Because it just got to get out of here. No one's going to want to maintain it after I'm gone anyway.
Yeah.
So I get to convert it over.
Hey.
But the key part with that, again, back to the Excel thing, it's not bad that someone's using Excel if they're connected to your Power BI model or your analysis services model, and then at least they're using the same data. That's the important bit.
Yeah.
If they're doing that, instead of, believe me, copying and pasting numbers from some emailed report to something else and doing all that nonsense.
Sure. Yeah. So, no, it's interesting, like the way these things go and kind of what you build. And sorry, yeah.
What is T1 Black, by the way? Is that like a store or a bar or something?
No, I get this thing because Avi wears the black shirt and the yellow bow tie.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Yeah.
But yellow teal for fabric now.
Can't stand it. I guess originally what were we originally? Crap, now I don't remember. Were we green first and then we went yellow?
In Power BI?
Yeah, Power BI was sort of yellow.
It was yellow. So Power BI was yellow and then it went to green, I suppose, because of I don't know. They said it went to green because of people. What's for reasons?
Well, they said they were lying. It was for assisted stuff. And really, it's because they were just going to change the color scheme. And they came up with some BS reason.
Exactly.
For it, which I admire as an intelligence guy. That's called misinformation. You're not going to keep it totally secret, but you kind of mislead people as to what it really is about.
But the frustrating accessibility. Thank you. The word I was looking for was accessibility. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Fernando.
yeah.
And that frustrated me because when they changed it to green, for me it became harder to see certain things.
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before. The yellow was just really stood out really well, but with the green, no. It's oh yeah, for accessibility. Not one person. In fact, most people were saying I have accessibility issues, and this is now worse. And they're like, no, accessibility. And then like what 2 months, 3 months later, out came fabric, and it's like, yeah, okay, guys,
Yeah.
cheers.
And by the way, I don't like the whole fabric thing. I mean, I don't want. I'm sorry, I don't want to call myself a fabricator. I mean, now again, for Joe user, Power BI probably won't mean that much. And you ever heard like someone say like Power B1 or something? You know.
No.
And by the way, B1 by the way is this plane here, which is
Okay.
one of the ones I work with these guys last, which are very nice bombers. But
I think I saw one of those in Berlin at an air show once. They're huge things.
you probably could have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very pretty.
Yeah. Was.
And they're still going. They'll probably go for at least maybe about another 10 years or so.
My so let's say my stepdad's brother back a while ago, he used to live in Chicago and he worked on what are they called? Stealth bombers or something, those kind of black ones that have the weird shape and they were designed.
Yeah, the B2 or the
Yeah.
F-117 is the fighter version, and the B2 was the.
Okay.
And there's a few more now.
I remember it was this type of flight. It was grounded for a while. Something happened. It was grounded, and he was working on this project to get them ungrounded. Sorry, that's my only thing that I have.
Yeah, no. Well, if
US
there's an accident with anything, they'll just ground everything.
There you go.
Did you hear about like last week? Like a Marine pilot got ejected out of an F-35.
Yeah.
Apparently, it may have been an auto ejection. It's like a vertical takeoff version, and there may have been a use case where they're afraid it could like flip over and the guy wouldn't have a chance to eject. So under certain conditions, the plane might just punch you out. In this case, they just punched him out, and the plane just kept flying into it, just crashed somewhere.
Yeah, I heard that he landed in someone's back garden and they had to call like the emergency service or something. It was like, what's going on?
Yes. And by the way, one of the stories with that, by the way, if you ever jumped out of used a parachute, jumped out of a plane with a parachute or anything?
I have not. No.
So, you got some straps that go between your legs. And you might do this if you're rock climbing, you're rappelling, you got a rope on you. You want that tight. You don't want a lot of looseness down there when it gets really tight.
Makes sense.
So when you get in a plane, like I got to do a little, trainer jet thing back in 85. Anyway, they adjusted and they pulled the straps and it's pretty tight. And they're like, is that comfortable? And you're like, yeah, it's okay. And then they pull it tighter and he's like, is that okay? Like, no, it's not. And they're like, okay, good. It shouldn't be comfortable.
Oh man, that's awesome. So look, I'll be honest, and I gotta go skydiving. I am terrified of heights. It's not gonna happen.
You sure? Well, okay. I mean, I'm not going to tell you you're not.
No, I went to the top of the TV tower in Berlin, the Fernsehturm. It's like the height, and it is no. Bear in mind, I used to be a flight attendant, which I know sounds pretty strange, which is a different thing. I guess it's for me, it's the lack of power, and that's not like wrong. I'm not scared of airplanes because if something happens to an airplane, a pilot can kind of pull it up or do something technical. If a tower starts to fall over, it's just falling over. That's what's going to happen. I think that's one of the things. Like if I'm in the TV tower, I did this a long time ago when I went up there. I just imagined it was like this floating ball that wasn't attached to the ground, and that made me less scared.
Huh.
Yeah.
The only thing I've noticed is if I'm on a rope, if I know I'm supported, I'm okay. I mean, you'll put me on the edge of a building, yes, I'm going to get very nervous. But if you have me on a rope and I feel the rope pulling me, I'd probably be fine leaning over that, leaning over the rail with the rope.
Yeah.
Because when I did my parachute once, now what I didn't like was we took off in this little Cessna with an open door, and I'm sitting near the door. I'm just like a little worried what happens if it just fall out. And you get really worried because you go out on the wing and then hold the thing like this and then let go of your feet. So you're sort of hanging there and you're supposed to look back at him. He gives you the signal and you let it off. And that was kind of nervous. But once you had the parachute open and you're just like, you're in a swing set, you're just sitting up there going, okay, I'm supported. I'm not falling. You're looking down. It's kind of cool.
I mean, it's probably a really obvious thing to say, but I think once the parachute would be open, I would be fine.
Yes.
just relax and enjoy it. But I think it's
Yeah.
one of the things I wish I'd done when I was younger, because I was just a lot less. I
Yeah, you're
didn't.
still pretty young, aren't you?
I'm 40, coming up 41.
Well, trust me, I used to think I was old. I don't think that's old. Younger, that still seems pretty young to me, man.
I don't think it's old, but I'm pretty sure it's not young. I'm in that middle ground, you know.
Yeah, you're getting near middle age.
Yeah,
Call
yeah,
45
exactly.
middle age, right?
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
hit 90, you can't say you die too young or anything.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
trust me, and there's biological breakpoints for that too, by the way.
Okay.
28, and I think there might be one million. 57 is another one,
Okay.
and then 78. There's some biological breakpoint.
Interesting.
I'm saying, and all I'm saying is,
It's good to know. I'm
I
gonna
turned
Google
57 and my eyebrows started growing weird directions and stuff. I don't know. It
it.
counts.
Love it.
Yeah, it
But I
was
think
Anthony. Ben stole a spring chicken. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
spring chicken.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you it's been about 4 years since I started taking out individual gray hairs, and I was just kind of just let it happen now. It's all good. It's
Yeah.
kind of
What I
just
tell
slowly.
people now, obviously, this has been gray kind of for a while, though. I used to think it was gray, and I look at the picture like, that doesn't look really gray. It's looking more brown than anything to me. But I just tell the younger guys, when you start getting the gray, just use the Grecian, the shampoo that just sort of gently covers up the gray. And
Okay.
just start doing that once you turn like 30 or so, and you just you won't even know that you're getting gray. Maybe.
Fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do what I did, which is when I was 50 and I was fairly gray. I tried dyeing it, and it was a little too brown. And guys at work just making fun of me. I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. You got it. That's no, that'll happen.
My dim date dimension. Why does Andy want to see my dim date dimension? I stole it from the Italians, by the way. The one that's basically used in Bravo, but they've had out on their site for a while.
Let me see Don's dim date dimension. Okay. I'm curious now.
And I don't call it dim date because I don't like dim or fact in my names. If I did do it, I have seen people put them on the end, and I'm better with that because it serves a function of you wouldn't be able to sort them alphabetically by it, but you could sort of see which ones are facts and dims. I don't like extra clutter in front of my names. Oh, the 28.
Okay.
Yeah. There
I
you
get
go.
it.
Oh, there we go. Maybe I'll have to find that article and
do it. That'd be quite cool.
I can't remember where I saw that now, but
I'm the same regarding with the names, by the way. I'm quite strict about when naming the measures. I don't like it when people the thing should come first because it's so alphabetically. So yeah, like the name of the table and then fact or dim if you want to put it in there.
Yeah.
But I don't like it when people write whatever, just say net sales and then they'll write previous year net sales. I'm like, you got to call it net sales previous year or something. It's very
yes. That's how I do like to do mine too. So they're at least grouped together. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And be consistent whatever you're doing. If it's going to be number of this or number, just make it consistent. So because we're all auto typing in the search box anyway. Just make it so you can pick it up quick enough.
Yeah.
Be okay.
I'm fully there on that one.
Dim, in fact, don't believe. Okay, I agree.
Okay, I appreciate that. Solidarity and naming convention is always really good. We should try to find some kind of global naming convention that we all have to adhere to.
I just use the Orange Book, baby. The one thing these guys said too was and this seems silly, but for fact tables, you can make it plural and make the dim table singular. So it's a store table and a sales table. So the S indicates that it's a fact table or it's a bunch of stuff in there.
Okay.
And that's what I do, but that's just because they
subtle, but yeah.
Subtle. Yeah, subtle, but
it depends.
It would be nice. So that could be another thing to add to the list for Microsoft. It would be sort of nice maybe if you could mark a table as being a fact or a dim, at least for some organizational capability, Give it a special icon maybe or something. I don't know.
I'm also thinking, I might be really wrong now. I don't think I am. You can, when you're in Power Query, you can create groups for your queries, but you can't actually group them when you're actually in Power BI. So if I have my list of tables on the right hand side, I can't actually group them within a folder.
Correct. Yeah,
that's frustrating. I wish I could do that because that's no.
And that's some things are easy. Some things if Microsoft could put an intern on it for a summer and get it done, they'll do it, right? And I've seen them do those. I appreciate though. They'll take stuff that you wouldn't have thought they would fix, and they picked an intern, they put him on it, and that was his job, and he did it. But some things are just too hard. Might have too much history to go back and.
Yeah.
in terms of stuff.
I was getting that because I had a conversation, I forget with whom. There you go. I'm going to bring up. So if you say something that my ideas are great, I'm just going to bring them up on the screen because I'm very vain like that. I have a very fragile ego, so I appreciate you saying it's a great idea. Yeah, I had this thought sometimes also with like the visualization side as well, with the work that Miguel's doing. Good work, fantastic, really happy. But
Yeah.
still, you get the impression sometimes there's just like some kind of historical code that's really hard to change. That's an
Yeah.
integral part of some stuff that
That's
it just limits what they can do.
right. And that's just how it is with some things. I mean, you're just not going to go back in time and change it. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're going to be using SQL for the next 1,000 years, the way things are going, by the way. There was that time 10 years ago when people had other query languages and whatever else. And it looks like it's just going to be SQL.
Yeah.
Basically.
And that's
probably okay. I don't know.
Everything else will crumble around. Power BI will disappear. Fabric will disappear, I hope. And also, all we'll be left with will be Excel and SQL. And that's what we'll have. And then everyone will be happy with those two things because that's all we need at the end of the day.
Did you see they're putting Python into Excel now?
Yes, I saw that.
Interesting.
It is.
I mean, I'm not really afraid someone, I think maybe even this morning was mentioning, afraid of having a bunch of Python code in your Excel. I'm like, maybe your Excel users, mine aren't smart enough to be worried about that, But it would be a nice capability to have, especially for somebody smart that knows what they're trying to do in there.
It's all over LinkedIn. I saw this like Python Go and Python, and I was like, okay, cool. The interesting thing, I mean, I'm not really, I suppose, in with the Excel side of the community, if you will, but I'd never heard of many people saying, I wish there was Python and Excel. That would be so cool. But all of a sudden it's there and everyone's very happy. So great.
Well, like I said, I don't know if Joe business user is going to be jumping on it, but like I've got a data analyst who knows Python from her little, thing. And so I could see her doing something and tying it in. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't, hey, more options, the better sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the case where if it gets used, it gets used.
Yeah. Now I was, had a conversation. I was pretty happy the other day because someone has asked me about the ability to, if I could help them use, I think they were asking to use R in Power BI. And I was like, you know what? Honestly, I can't because my R just doesn't exist basically. Yeah. But then when the conversation continued, I was like, we could just probably do this with Deneb, because actually from what I can see you want to create should be pretty doable. So now I get to do at some point in the nearish future, do a couple of Deneb training sessions at my company, which is pretty cool. I'm excited about that because it's a sort of thing where you're like, are people going to learn this? Is it, should I use it? But if I get other people kind of interested, then I can use it and I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to go play more of the visualization. I remember when D3 came out, which is what Power BI is based on back, I don't know when that was, late 2000s or so, 2009, 2000s, whatever it was.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Because I remember like, oh, that's cool. And saw the graphics and stuff.
I wish I had the need to use D3 for something. I've started to learn it really slowly. And that's really interesting. I love it, but until I have a project where I absolutely require it, I know I'm not going to get where I want to be with it because it takes a while. It's brilliant though. I love it. I think it looks like an amazing thing that you can obviously do some fantastic stuff with it, but it'll take a while.
But I see Andy was talking about SQL, and it is a pretty easy language, especially when you keep it simple. I've never done like a bunch of stored procedures and variables and SQL and all that. I just use it as a query language. Hey, give me my select star from this. If I remember to put the group by in, when I do put the group by in, that always catches me every time I do it.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah.
But by the way, I will learn one more language. I will learn Python. I got to borrow it from a friend.
Okay.
Learn Python. Not that it's should be a hard language to learn. But all the kids are using it now.
That's true. But are you the sort of person who can do that? Can you learn stuff without an actual like a use case or like I need it for this?
Yeah, sure.
I'm pretty bad at that.
I mean, if it's a well-written book, you can certainly go through it. Again, with this, I'm more going through it. I used to do. I dabbled. So VBA, Fortran, basic. Well, VBA. The first way, basic Fortran in school. VBA, and then I learned Java when Java was a new kid. Had that little weird icon guy, the little dance. I forgot his way. He even had a name. He had a little icon guy. Back when, by the
Love
way,
it.
object-oriented databases were the future. This is like the late 90s, like 96. Oh, yeah, we're going away from SQL. It's going to be object-oriented databases.
Okay, no, that
By the
is.
way, I hate object-oriented programming and stuff. That's another discussion. Functional programming is the way to go. But yeah, I learned Ruby on Rails. If you ever heard of that, it was a web framework that was sort of popular about 2005.
Okay.
They were one of the first cool kids to get into Git. So I'm still a
Okay.
command line Git guy, which is how I think people should learn how to use it, because
Fair enough.
every GUI for it's different, and you got to learn all the different ways to do it. Where if I know the command line, I could just, like a command line, you know the command line, you don't have to worry about learning anything
That's true.
new. But Ruby and Rails and Ruby and Python are sort of cousin languages, came out in the 90s. So similar stuff, kind of. I don't know.
Wow.
And then I learned a language called Clojure just for fun, like you asked me to learn. I didn't have anything really in particular. I just got interested in, just started reading books on it. But again, that's like the perfect language that no one's going to use because it looks funny. It's a list, right? The parentheses are in the wrong spot.
Real?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Well, list is very simple. It's you start everything with parentheses, so it's very easy. You want to start typing, you type a left parentheses, then you do your function, and then you do your arguments, as many as you want. So parentheses plus, and then give a list of numbers and close parentheses. That's your function plus applied to those arguments. See, you just learned Lisp and Clojure. That's basically all there is to it.
Gonna put on my CV now.
Yes, go for it. But Python, I'll learn enough, because actually I'm getting interested in trying to make some money in the stock market, right? Which I'm pretty good at losing money in the stock market so far, by the way. It's pretty easy.
Congratulations, yeah.
But there's you learn a language for the libraries. So I saw this article, like, oh yeah, there's all these finance libraries to get stock market quotes into Python, and ones to do forecasting in it and to run rules. I'm like, oh, well, cool. I don't have to write a lot of extra code. I mean, I could, but, why do it if the library's there? So that will probably be one of my first things to use that for. Oh my gosh, Fernando was doing C#, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's again, learn enough certainly to do tabular editor, which I've done. I mean, it's sort of like Java. It's the same syntax.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a difference between like, hey, I'm a professional programmer. I'm writing some real sort of application or something, and I'm doing some scripting. I'm doing a 5-line thing, a 10-line thing to do it. Like I did some VBA the other day. I was very happy to do that.
Nice.
I had a bunch of pivot tables that I was converting from one server to another one.
Right.
And you can just switch the connection. But the guy put 15 pivot tables on a page. Probably doesn't need to be that many to do whatever he was doing. And I wasn't going to change them by hand, because it's one of those things. It's not hard, but you do this, you wait 5 seconds for this to refresh, and then you. I just roll a little loop. Okay, find all the pivot tables on this worksheet and change this connection.
Yeah.
And that's what that's a scripting thing, right? Just a little thing, makes your life easier.
But this is the thing I like. It's nice to get at the point where you know enough to like write a decent amount of your own, but also more importantly, understand the solutions that you have to Google for the stuff that you don't know. So you can write a bit, it's okay, but something doesn't work, or you want to learn something new, so you can once you can understand the core principles.
Right.
That for me, that's like, once I'm at that level, I'm happy basically. I don't have to like. It's the same with like SQL. I don't have to like make these like huge statements that are completely doing everything, and like
Well, yeah, right. Well, and that's where when we were talking about finicky and stuff. That's why I'm sort of maybe with Dax or the model. It's like I'd rather spend the extra time to get something that is right and is kind of cleaner than to just get something that kind of works and then just go on. I mean, again, it's one of those things. How much time do you want to spend it? Yeah. You can spend all day and dig a hole and waste a bunch of time, or you just spend 2 seconds thinking about it, and if you thought 5 minutes, you would have figured something better out. By the way, who said Pascal? I did do Pascal in college too, as well, of course.
Okay.
Which is 1983, which it was one of the teaching languages at the time. And then later, actually in 2000, for my algorithms class, when I went back to school for 2 classes, because I didn't have a computer science degree, right?
Yeah.
So I took 2 classes. I took one in algorithms and data structures.
Okay.
So you learn how like a sort that works for like 100 things isn't going to work as well for 1,000, or 10 is going to go exponential and blow up on you.
Yeah.
And I took a database class, so I learned proper SQL.
There you go.
I actually used it to do my first, star schema stuff. I found the little data warehouse chapter on it, and said, it's got sales, and it's got date, and it's got this. Cool. I'll just copy that. That looks good.
Excellent.
But yeah, we had to do Pascal for that class too, because back in the time, the classes whatever language the teacher wanted to teach it in. If you didn't know it, well, they give you a free compiler and go learn it, man. You're done.
Damn, that's a
So,
lot. That's a lot. Interesting though. But when this coming from Andy, like Elena, and then Chat GPT.
well,
I'm bringing this up because I did this with a colleague just this week, and we do with M, and it was pretty bad. I've got to say,
was it?
what it produced was not. I know I mentioned this before, the Win Hopkins video about how it's very good at commenting, but the code itself I did not find particularly helpful at all. There you're gonna go.
By the way, COBOL I debugged as an intern for Detroit Edison. By the way, Kevin, downtown, I did debug some COBOL code in 1983 or 84. So I have looked at COBOL code.
I have no idea what that is. I gotta say,
it's actually spelled with the two O's, of course, Kevin. But it was like an old school language from the 50s or 60s, supposed to be a user friendly business, programming language that anybody could kind of program things for themselves. But it's horribly, how do you say, verbose or whatever?
Yeah, okay, verbose. Yeah, I got it. And 1 second. Yep. This is true. ChatGPT and Vega Lite is also not good here.
I'm scared of the ChatGPT thing because, it's kind of like when you're wondering about, hey, when did this cool movie come out in the 70s? And you're trying to remember with your friends about when it came out. Of course, now you just pick up your phone, you go Google it, and you know it. Right?
Yeah, I know.
I think all the fun out of programming, at least, in the old days, okay, like when I came up, well, you had the manual, then you had yourself, and that's about it, right? You have to figure stuff out. And then you went to the long phase of you just Google it, and everybody can figure stuff out by Googling it. Yeah. And now it's going to be even worse. You have the Chat GPT, and they'll just Chat GPT and everything. I don't know.
I agree with that. It's interesting that you bring that because, for example, when I have something that I can't remember, but I really care about, I refuse to Google it. I sit there, I'm like, no, I'm not going to, I need to work this out myself. And it's the same with the problems. The thing that's for me most enjoyable is I'll talk specifically about Vega Lite here, for example. If I don't know, is to find it out and kind of go through different ways of failing myself and trying different methods and then finding searching for stuff. If it got to the point where you could just search, I'd be like, that's boring now. I think for people who enjoy doing that sort of thing, you have a certain personality trait where you just want to know. It's kind of that need to kind of have that knowledge rather than just kind of go, please do that for me. I don't know.
Right. We'll see. It'll get there, and that's probably fine for some things. It's kind of like having maybe an intern. Like I've had interns. Okay, they go out, they churn out some code. Okay, I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time cleaning this thing up here. So not go put it into production right away.
Yeah.
So it could probably be okay for some stuff.
Sure.
See, cool. Oh, by the way, where I work here, we do have a machine called the IBM AS400, also known as an I series, also known as Series I, because IBM keeps changing the names. Basically, not a mainframe, but kind of a mini frame. That's not the right word. But it was kind of in between, being a personal computer. It's pretty big iron nowadays.
Okay.
Anyway, they had a language called RPG, which I'm not sure if punch code was in there, but it started out basically it was derived from punch code type cards.
Love it.
And we still have quite a bit of that floating around here. And once again, as with COBOL, I've looked at it mostly to try to steal logic. Okay, I got to build I want my numbers to match the numbers coming out of this RPG report. Let me look at the source code, and I can figure out enough of it to figure out where they got the data from and what they were doing to it. But it was the old school stuff was really horrible. It was like, oh my gosh, COBOL was bad. And maybe it's better. I don't know. It may not be that bad.
Oh, I love it.
Like I said, I'm getting too old to learn a bunch of new languages. Python will be about it, I think. So.
So your Python is going to be your grand finale, right? Is that what you're trying to say?
And I do like M. I got into M early. M's nice, a nice functional language. It's just, a lot you can do with that.
Yeah.
Chris Webb had, I think, the first book on it. I remember I got the early beta edition out of Press, wherever it was from.
Yeah.
And that was quite fun.
Yeah.
And there's documentation out there too.
Yeah, I forget what it was I was doing a while ago, but there was some people it was like a training or whatever and talking about Dax, and I was saying I much prefer writing in M than I do for Dax. And they're like, "What's wrong?"
Well, of course, because it works.
Yeah, but the response was, "Oh, really? That's crazy." I was like, "How is it crazy? Writing in Dax for me kind of feels like, I don't know, it just makes more sense than Dax somehow."
Once you get above the sum X, if you're doing anything fancy, Dax Well, it can be painful. I'm just saying, it's just how it is, right? Whereas in Power Query, it's very simple. I see my table of data, I see my change.
Yeah.
It's fairly straightforward. Now you can go into the language. You could try to do recursion or do something a little crazier and go look at MKey. Oh shoot, what's her last name? Feldman? MKey. Imke.
Yeah.
Look at her stuff. I mean, she's done crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's straightforward, and that's what I like. It's an approachable thing, and then I can write my M code for what I need to make it clean. If I want to again be finicky about my stuff, like yes, the GUI did it, but it did 5 lines, and I could write up this and just do it in a nice little one-liner.
Yeah.
Stuff.
True.
But that's cool because everybody can play there. The business user can do his thing if they're spend the time to learn how to use the tool. And somebody smarter can make it do whatever they want to.
Yeah, true.
It's fun stuff.
Agree, mate.
Oh crap! Are we?
Yeah,
that was weird. Last time I looked at the clock, it was like 2:30. I'm like, oh crap! How are we going to fill an hour here?
Tell you, man, it always goes fast. You think it's gonna go. You're just like chatting, and all of a sudden it's being like,
So before I forget, have you been to Vicenza, Italy?
No.
That's where the Air Force sent me back in about 25 years ago. It's in northern Italy, between Milan and Venice.
Okay.
Sure, you've been through there or near there, or maybe went through Verona, probably.
I've been near it because we drove. So me, my wife, and our kids, we drove down to Florence, and we went up through Austria. So we would have drove close by for sure. Yeah.
Close by either, or maybe it was Verona you went through there. But yeah, I took a bus up to Munich once through the Austria. That was very pretty. It was Oktoberfest.
Right. Okay.
That was actually, that's cool, another story. It was an my epic peak party for me.
Yeah. Oktoberfest I'll be honest, I've seen a bit of it. I've never really been down in the deep of Oktoberfest, but it's
the only tip for that I noticed is you have to be sitting down to drink a beer. They wouldn't give you a beer to stand around it.
Okay,
and it was really crowded. There was like 10 or 15 of us who were trying to find a space big enough for us to sit in, and we could not get a beer until we could get ourselves seated at a table and then have the Fräuleins come by with the mugs and serve us. I'm like, I just want a beer.
Anyway. Yeah, I remember one of the experience I had in Germany when I was in Cologne. They have this beer called Kölsch, which is very nice, and they normally served in smaller glasses, but the thing is, they just keep topping it up all the time. So if someone walks by, they'll just constantly top up the beer. It's not until you put like a beer mat on top of something that they'll stop doing that. And that caught me. I didn't realize what was going on. They were like, they're going to keep doing that until they tell them to stop. I was like, oh, very interesting to know. But no, Munich's a beautiful city, and like the south of Germany with all the Alps and stuff.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. And again, remember, of course, northern Italy, parts of it used to be Swiss or German or something. It's kind of it's sort of a nice mix there.
Exactly.
I'll get back there. It's been too long since I've been over across the pond.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, like my wife's from Florence, and we like. To be honest, I don't go there that often because normally when she goes, it's just a summer, and it's just far too hot for me. But it's very beautiful down there for sure. So
yeah, we spent a couple of days there when we took the train down. So
cool.
I'd go back someday. I'd definitely go back. Nice thing with Italy, you go back, everything's going to be there still. I mean, in the old parts of town, hey, it'll still be. It's been there 1,000 years, 50. It's still going to be there. Yeah. Well, except for maybe parts of Venice, which someday will be underwater.
Yeah, it'll be a bit like take your wellies,
Yeah.
All right, mate. Cool. Thank you so much for joining, Donald. It's been a great
my
chat.
My pleasure.
Really
I'm a little nervous and stuff, but it was fun. And like I said, I will do something someday. I got to do some presentation. I just
do it.
Don't really like doing that stuff, and I want it to be perfect, and so you just keep kind
of course.
I'll
start annoying you on a monthly basis on LinkedIn until you do it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'll just force your hand there. Everyone in the chat, thank you so much for all the questions, all the comments. This always makes it even more enjoyable. And next week, I'm back, but at much earlier time. I'll be back at 5 o'clock Berlin time anyway, because it's Ben Weissman, and he has requested a 5 o'clock time. So
shoot, I'm going to change my appointment schedule.
Yeah, just that one, and then I'll be back to the regular time.
Cool.
But
well, thanks, Ben. It's my pleasure, and thanks for everybody in the chat. It's always good chatting with everybody. Of course, this is kind of weird being on the other side of that.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.